Hey, welcome back to the Walk on Water show. I am Carolyn, and I am helping you learn to conquer emotional bondage with the armor of God. Now, if you missed part 1 last week, you really need to go back and get that. It'll have the title Armor of God Part 1. We're looking today at the second set of 3 pieces of armor and how we can find Bible verses that correlate to what we're going through and what these pieces are, and how we can pray those verses and conquer the fear, worry, discouragement, anger, you name it. We can conquer it through the power of God. So the first one we're starting with today is the helmet of salvation. And that protects our mind. So I want you to think about all the thoughts that go through our mind, all the negativity we hear, all the doom and gloom we hear from TV and radio, and just outside in the world and on social media. And what about the negativity we speak to ourselves? So a lot of times I will just use that verse from Colossians 3, verse 2 that says, set your mind on things above, not on things on the earth. Another one I like to use is about taking thoughts captive, because that's what we are actually doing here. And I'm not sure if that's 1 Corinthians or 2 Corinthians, but it's in chapter 10. And I think it's verse 6. And here's the one I am using for my surgery that's coming up. And let me find it here. Okay. Confess your trespasses one to another and pray for one another that you may be healed. The effective, fervent prayer of a righteous man avails much. And yes, that was the same one I used on last week for the breastplate of righteousness, but I'm using it here as a helmet of salvation to remind myself that I need to be fervently praying before, through, and after this surgery. Now let's go to the shield of faith. That is, back in that day, the Roman soldiers had a wooden shield that was about 2 foot wide and 4 foot long. So he could actually squat behind the shield and be safe. And they would dip them, they're covered in leather, and they would dip them in water. And then when the enemy sent fiery arrows, it would quench those flames and put them out. And the Roman army could actually connect their shields together and make something that looked like a turtle shell coming across to protect them. And so what am I using for that verse? Oops. That's my sword of spirit. Jeremiah 17:7. Heal me, O Lord, and I shall be healed. Save me, and I shall be saved, for you are my praise. So that is what I'm using for that one. There's so many verses. I would try to find one that has something to do with trusting in God. That's something that reminds you to trust, or like that other one that is reminding me to pray. All right, so now we're going to go to the sword of the Spirit. And this is the one that is our chance to wound the enemy with this verse. And what about a verse like, no weapon formed against me shall prosper? That's a good one for shield of faith too. So the sword of the Spirit, I have a couple because I know that I keep looking over this way because my iPhone's over there, and even though I can't see it, it is a habit. So yeah, after all these years of being blind, it is a habit to look at what is talking to me. Anyway, Our sword of the spirit, folks, for me, for my surgery, because bleeding is a very good risk. They've already asked me if I can, will I be willing to accept blood? And of course I am. And I'm going to ask them if I can give my own a few days before, however that works. It's Ezekiel 16:6. And this is a verse that a lot of people will use in a situation where someone is bleeding out. Let me find it. Then I passed by and saw you kicking about in your blood. And as you saw you laying there in your blood, I said, live. And then I have another one I'm using. 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 9. Do I have it there? No, I guess I don't. I have the words written there, but I don't have but that is the one that says, my grace is sufficient for you. For when I am weak, then you are strong. So most gladly will I boast in weaknesses, infirmities, and so forth, because the power of God will rest on me, of Christ will rest on me. Something from Psalm 91 I'm using to fight infection is, nor the pestilence that stalks in darkness, nor the plague that destroys in midday. And that is in Psalm 91. And I'm using those because they refer directly to bleeding and infection. And I've also given those to my husband. So that is my sword of the spirit. And any verse out of the Bible can be a sword of the spirit, but use something that correlates with what you're going through. If you're going through fear or worry or discouragement or depression or grief or stress, you're going to want different verses for different things, and just keep coming back, because my goal with this show is basically every show is to show you how to show you a verse and where it could be used good at. So occasionally I will go over these because I know new people are going to hop on and they're not going to know what these are, and they're not going to have read the book yet, so they're not going to know. But if you do want the book, the link is going to be in the description. You probably have to click on more for that. So if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I don't want you confused about this. I want this to be clear as water. So thank you, and you have a blessed day.